Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to share their work with us. And it's Friday again, so let's get going here. Eric is up first tonight. Hey, Eric.
Oh, hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, yeah, very well. Very well. How are you?
Not too bad. So you have a few
Oh.
short pieces to share with us tonight, I think?
Yeah, I mean, I can do like one. I don't have to do them all
No,
in a row. I can like,
no, whatever you wanted to read, you could read. I just tried to remember what it was.
sure.
Mhm.
Okay. I have just got some dogs here as company. Two dogs. Hi, dogs. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so the first one's called Benny. Um, I recall the man in Twistiger called Benny, scouring his pants with a brill attached to a prong. He's stretching and reaching ever so high up. He needs the baking soda perched on the washer when he goes, "Hey, buddy, could you?" Tall that I am, passing the stuff. He tells me last week he found an old Itukai fisherman keeled over completely dead on the pier. Says he must have been dead hours. He said it was curious that none of the early morning dog walkers from the lakeside villas hadn't went to help. Thought them the type to just walk on by. I mean, there's dozens of them down there, says Benny. What, dog walkers? No. Fishermen. Ah, lots of fish to catch, I guess. I guess. I say, why do you guess no one from the villas stopped to help before you? He goes, sad, isn't it? Tragedies. When he wasn't sitting in the attic at night fussing his decades old box accounting files into order, or cycling the urban forest with a green parakeet perched on his shoulder, Benny could be found pacing his balcony with nunchucks for a right good session, or at least that was how someone described it. He continues, I went long and hard on that fisherman. Not even a thanks. Nothing. But he was dead, right? Right dead, he says, scrubbing hard on his pants. Dead as can be. Old too. Guess how old I am? 80? Nah, close enough. 74. I can still get it up, he says, slapping his bicep with the arm of honour. But the Brillo flew off the prong and landed pathetically on the ground. I thought to ask him what the hell he was doing with it when he looked up and went, Dead man pants. Dead pants. Oh, nothing, he said, never mind. He said, whilst chucking the Brill into the filthiest looking plastic bags. He goes, I saw this great documentary about Scotland all night. What was it called? I don't recall. Who made it? He went, not sure, but it was about the old times. There was a bunch of fishing gear behind where he'd been scrubbing. He came over all flushed when he noticed that I'd noticed, like a couple of rods, a net, and a whatnot. He cursed something about the fishermen on the pier and then prepared to leave. So I said to my wife, I said, the Queen of Scotland, she's the Queen of the I peoples as well, and combined she's the Queen of England, he said, packing up the last bits of tackle. He's going at the door, but he stops to look up and all serious, like takes a pause, like he's got something real deep to say. She was a great reformist, the Queen of England. I think you meant Thatcher, I said. He turns to me and goes, Thatcher's? The documentary you saw, it was probably about Thatcher. Ah, right, yeah. Thatcher, he said, dropping his things to the ground, then saluting with his other hand behind his back. Queen of the I2K. The end.
Were you going to read a second piece or?
Yeah, maybe like in, I don't know, 20 minutes or something.
Okay, yeah. We'll come back to you for a second one, but I want to talk about this one that you just read because Eric, we've published a couple of your pieces on misery tourism, and listening to this piece, I'm reminded about just what a knack you are for sketching out characters, for creating characters, and creating characters through dialogue, especially. All of the dialogue in this, not only very sharp and not only like very effective at conveying exactly like the essence of this guy, right? But also like really reflective of the way people actually talk to each other, really like honestly conversational in a way that's compelling on the page, compelling to listen to, and that feels really authentic. So you're just kind of the master of these like really intimate character sketches with just fantastic dialogue. So thank you, Eric. And yeah, we'll give you another shot later on in the night.
Sounds good, Will. Thank you, Will. Cheers.
Thank you, man. Um, Rudy's up next.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello, Rudy.
I'm gonna read a piece from my Substack today. This is a piece that's about dogs or whatever. I don't fucking know. Um, it's called "Cruelty to Animals." Wanted level 1 star. Punching a virtually unhateable pooch named Pickles with knuckle tatted fingers, wearing a Pickle Rick tee, 200 in-game monies. Call on the in-game cell phone, which is as thick as Beyonce is and as pixelated as Grimes wishes she was. Stop playing around, Jasper. I need you and Horace here pronto. It's Cruella. She wants you to do the mission. She can get fucked because over your shoulder is Tyrone Lemaire, and over his shoulder is the state of New York, county of Franklin, 2 years probation for alleged child endangerment. He's using you to blow off steam. Steam is rising from the kettle in his double wide's kitchen. Steam is reflecting off his girlfriend's taped half lunette glasses as she reflects on her move in a steamy romance IF game, the one where you fuck a dangerous weapon. All while the pair further recede into catatonic euphoria, farther away from the crying, screen shining, au pair, nowhere to be found. Polygonal dogs catching right hooks like they're jacked up super soldiers in a fist fight, crushing fists with X power. Except these canines are just catching hell. X to execute. Disney added quick time mercy killing, but Tyrone is ignoring it. He wants to slow time, glaciate the promise of an end. Codeine. He wants to make sure those little Oreo colored fucks take it all on the chin, like the Matthew Good song says, getting all he deserves for $79.99 retail plus DLC, and not a penny less. Also good. Only, if I'm being honest, Bartle might disagree with the idea that quote unquote only killers call killing progress, especially when you unlock the rocket launcher through killing at level 99. Motherfuck, Tyrone really hates dogs. Wanted level 2 stars. Even though you're on your 5th pit bull killed with a tire iron, you're finally doing the damn mission. Tyrone must have popped an addy. You're standing in front of Cruella nodding while she tells you about how, in her younger days, she strangled a puppy with her belt, then buried it in back of DeVille Manor because she felt something, not bad. Cinematic lightning strike. And Tyrone's tapping of the X button sounds like a telltale heart as the old crone's voice work starts, stops, skips. There's a part where the weirdly glassy eyed villainess says, "Maybe all dogs go to heaven." Totally out of character, but the name drop of a DreamWorks property, which Disney now owns, along with most other things. is a power move you respect because game recognized game. Oh, and because you're also a Disney property. I need a new coat, she says, half pleading. I'll give you 1,000,000 monies to do the deed. You were told about a puppy mill in the northern suburbs of Lice City with more than 100 dogs for sale. Horace says that it must be Haitian Run, an off-color joke referencing the 2002 Grand Theft Auto title whose name sort of rhymes with nicety if you say nice itty, broken up and kind of stuttering. Stuttery describes Tyrone's current state as either the Addy, the codeine, or the code, or making him feel some type of way. Schedule 2's playing with the Schedule 2.
Dude,
is
I
gay.
can share my screen.
Do I want to focus or sleep? As you hurtle through the ambiently occluded night in a stolen mattress truck, sirens blare. Fuck you, wee you, wee you, wee you. Horace cranes his head back, saying, Oi, Copper's gonna have us for life plus 25. Which might be a flex on the weird American justice system, who can say? You laugh confidently as boxy gray buildings covered in real ad billboards whiz by, a whole lot of life plus 70 moving into rear view. Wanted level, 3 stars. Tyrone is mostly sick of narratives, stories, tailspins, whatever. He is using the mattress truck as a big battering ram against any and all civilians, but most especially Shiba Inu mixes, which to his eyes look like angrier versions of Lacey's diabetic uncle, furry faces as swollen as his feet. Lacey is Tyrone's girl, for life, for now. The collision sounds on the doggos are better than their hip boxes, which are small and awkward, or maybe it's the huge truck that's off. He has to basically spin the thing on top of the little bastards to get their bodies a ragdoll to satisfaction. To hell with Hell Hall. It's time to grind teams into the ground until his misery is palpable, Palpatine, memeable. Tyrone's heart is probably 3 sizes too downscaled, sitting heavy and gurgly within his chest. When Lacey's pit comes to sniff his controller, he erupts, showering magmic curses and smashing his fist into space-age particle board, which is branded vibranium and exists now in any Walsam's hardware department instead of just Wakanda. This causes the whole trailer to rearrange itself. Inception noise. Boing. While the pyroclastic flow from his outburst hits the room like Pompeii, everybody silenced and fixed in position. A scene as unreal as the proprietary engine powering his Vidya. Tyrone, unlike Jasper, is not a member of the Slapaho Nation, although he's only 1/8 away from eligibility, that 8th being the 8th of March when his failure to redo the snap will Thanos away half the food in the fridge. He has, however, smacked hella inanimate objects and left his wet mark all over drywall. Lacey exhales. Jesus fucking Christ, she says. Tyrone pauses, then blows a huge with his lips. Horace's eyes dart back and forth furtively, his world of violent still life. Well, that's attractive, Lacey quips. Tyrone is so rip shit that his eye is twitching, but maybe that's just side effects. The baby breaks the silence. You done? Yeah, Tyrone says. I'm fucking done. Wanted level, 4 stars. What's it look like when a dog gets exploded by an RPG? Iraq 3 vets like Lacey probably know, but she doesn't talk about Iraq 3 or anything really, only Bejeweled 4 mostly. In Lice City, a dog being destroyed looks fucking awesome. Giblets and particles galore. The cat's ass. Sergeant Tibbs is a crooked cop in the city. Feline persuasion. Always smokes Marlboros through a long cigarette holder. Classy boy. Every graphic in GTD is some degree of ultra real except his. He's hand drawn, Alice in Wonderland era shit. Perfect lines. In a side mission, he asks you to help him take out a jailer named Flood who sold his daughter laced heroin. He only speaks through one of his CIs, some tweaker named Jeff, because a smoking pussycat is ridiculous, let alone a talking one. Jeff is telling you Tibbs's sob story when a greyhound on a leash struts by, athletic, angular body looking keen. Your head starts to turn by itself. Then the camera switches to first person. I punch out the owner. One jab, world star at all. When she gets up dizzily and starts cursing me out, I just execute her. Shotgun blast to the center mass. Her ragdoll starts working it like Missy. Air for millions. Lands somewhere near the skate park. I step on the leash. The poor unfortunate boy pees right on my Adidas, head hung. Scurry, scurry. Shotgun butt interrupts his butt dance, tail between legs. And he does that thing where an animal sinks into the ground wishing for God or clipping problems to take it lower. I force his mouth open and keep it open with the shotgun, wring his neck, and begin massaging the barrel end like I'm trying to get him to swallow deworming tablets. Full on whimpering. Horace is flustered. Jesus, he blurts. They're gonna throw the key away, Jasper. Don't you get it? When I pull the trigger, the greyhound's jaw twists off its face as red blood collages with bright light and a loud bang. The jawbone tumbles through at least 10 meters of game space, hits a tree. The dog is all post-mortem giddy, wagging around as if he's just seen his master, the simulated muscles of rigid body releasing their final torque instructions. The good boy is just a twisting around, and I can see through him to the pavement beneath. Normals are inside out as the jig continues. The key, Jasper. Shut the fuck up, is what we all say as the camera pulls back. Wanted level, 0 stars. Adderall is wearing off. Big come down as 9-inch nail shakes the subwoofer. Woof. Cruella buzzes your phone. Have you done it yet? Tyrone says no at the same time as you do, but gives a different excuse. Just let me do this heist. Knowing what that means causes a shiver in you, which reads to outside eyes as some temporary chromatic aberration. You feel deprotagonized, sluggish as the online environment fires up, changing you into a darkly complected 30-something who looks more like Tyrone. Your name is now Baller Sosa 18. Horace doesn't recognize you. You see him mouthing egad or something equally limey as he fades into obscurity. The other U's are here now. One of them is female, one is Asian. The Asian guy backs up the mattress truck, hitting a garbage can but not knocking it over. A voice that sounds black says, "Get in, cuz." You're riding shotgun when an inevitable battle over songs ensues. "Never touch a black man's radio," Tyrone says to the black dude playing the Asian dude. "Fuck you and fuck Motown, nigga." Tyrone doesn't fight. He's tuckered out. 2 p.m. feels. You aim your gun out the window, line the crosshairs up on a Doberman pincer, and blow it clean off a municipal bridge to nowhere. Minutes later, the truck is pulling into the Radcliffe estate. Storyline forced radio switch. Cruella de Vil song. Everyone moans, and everyone, everywhere, starts singing along, all at once. The obtuse lock-picking minigame at the door goes sideways, so Asian dude drives a minivan through the side vestibule. Crash. You go in first. The foyer is dark and desolate, but quickly becomes illuminated as sets of tiny yellow eyes, each one a light source, open up and stare at you. In the voice channel, people were talking about the desire, urge, compulsion to just fucking mow down these 100+ animals right hecking now, and what the best way to do it would be. The game's AI is picking up on this and putting together something special for the players, something abstracted as if heard in a game of Chinese whispers, digital empathy for virtual felons. It renders its gift as an inciting subtitle in SF Arborcrest font. Kill all the Dalmatians. Weapons go hot. Grenades start bouncing jubilantly. The baby stops crying. Lacey stops hitting Tyrone's forehead with the back of her hand and, seeing a smile curl itself across his face, begins watching over his shoulder. Over your shoulder, you feel their warmth beaming onto you as you initiate a massacre that makes Michael Vick's off-the-field activity look saintly by comparison. And if this is what it takes to bring people together in the bleak modern age, so be it, says the pale shade of Walter Elias Disney over everyone's shoulder. Wanted level 5 stars. That's it.
Man, I cannot get over how well realized this game is. Like, because like this is the game itself, like setting aside like the fact that you also have this kind of like bleak look at Malone in the year 2035 or whatever. You're setting that, which is all good shit. Setting that aside, the game itself is so vividly and perfectly realized. It's a tremendous high concept because you're combining like the 101 Dalmatians with other Disney properties, with Grand Theft Auto, with some sense of like, what gaming would be in the not too distant future. And it all comes together flawlessly, I think. Even the shit like the NPC dialogue, I was really cracking up over Horace's dialogue because you can like because that's exactly how like NPCs talk in Grand Theft Auto games, right? Like the canned dialogue and on top of that, the way you've taken this character from 101 Dalmatians and like turned him into a NPC in a Grand Theft Auto style game. And the Cruella de Vil monologue that he's skipping through that mentions all dogs go to heaven. That's a good one too. Like just how every detail here is integrated, I think, is just really funny and really sharp. But I can't believe you didn't go with Kill All Dalmatians for the title. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I actually put this out for a vote to see what people wanted to do for the poem. Like I put the image in there and I said, well, what do people want from the poetry? What do they want it to be about? And I was thinking, well, I have this idea that it's going to be basically, kill all Dalmatians, like the Grand Theft Auto thing is kill all Haitians.
Yeah.
But so I thought, well, yeah, I'll just have some dog killing or whatever. But then I was like, you know what? People don't really want to. Who wants to see that shit? But then apparently everybody wants to see that shit apparently, because the vote was like, it was like 10 votes for kill all Dalmatians and then like 2 for some of the other things or whatever, something. So yeah, it was really, it was pretty lopsided.
That's just such a great play on the kill all Haitians thing, right? And you had already showed the image that showed the Grand Theft Auto Vice City thing with Cruella de Vil in it, and
the image actually has the phrase "kill all Dalmatians" on it at the bottom.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it has Haitians crossed out and Dalmatians.
Oh man.
But yeah.
Anyway, man, that fucking rocked. The only thing that makes me sad is that it's not a real game, and that Disney probably will never reach the point where they're willing to degrade their intellectual properties in quite this way, sadly.
Inshallah, right?
Right. All right,
anyway,
man.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And Tyler's next. Oh yeah, Tyler's here. Hey Tyler, how's it going?
Oh, pretty all right. So this is a story that I read in a slightly different form on here last year. We get the link. I've done some work on it and I've got it to a point where I've started shopping for subs, so shopping it around places. So let me just see if that link works. It does. Okay. The story is called My Neighbor Jim Who Died in the Rafters. The attic was small and hot, and there was old dust in the air, and a body lodged in the rafters. Jim had crawled up there for reasons no one would ever know now, and he had died up there, and no one could get him out. 2 men had appeared on Jim's stoop early that morning. I'd seen them knocking on the door when I went out to get my mail and decided to come out and talk to them when they still hadn't left after a few minutes. I said they were Jim's bosses at the bus garage, where he hadn't shown up since late last week. I told him I had a key from when his brother died a couple of years ago and I house sat while he was out of town. I let myself in, checked all over the house, almost wasn't going to check the attic, but Jim had always struck me as the type of fellow who enjoyed a good attic. Where that idea came from, I don't know, but it's a good thing because he was there. It was only coming up on mid-morning, but the summer sun was already barreling in through the tall casement window on the far side of the room and heating the dry woody air to a sweaty smother. I cracked the window while calling the cops, not an emergency line, since Jim obviously wasn't going anywhere. And then them and the paramedics and the ME showed up fairly soon, it being a slow morning. And I started talking to them, and somewhere along the way, I noticed the bosses had slipped out and left me as the one point of contact. I don't know why that particular role fell to me. Those guys probably knew Jim better than I did, but I've always been a compulsive volunteer, and I was happy to be of help in this trying time in Jim's life, so to speak. There was no ladder in the attic and no other obvious means of access to the rafters, so unless we were missing something, Jim had pulled himself up under his own power. And I lost my place. An impressive feat at his age. Of course, the strain of hoisting himself up to the rafters could have done him in, or he could have been up there a while before he kicked off. There was simply no way of making that determination until we got him down. The ME asked me if Jim had any health problems that could have occasioned such a sudden and inopportune exit, and I had to tell him I didn't know. He was a private man, and we didn't really have a kind of relationship where we jawed about our health. He said hello from the porch while I passed his house on my walk. Sometimes he came to the fence to chat a bit. It was actually a big surprise when he asked me to house sit, and for a while afterwards, I took to bringing a six-pack over every now and then, operating under the theory that he needed someone to talk to. He took the beer gladly enough, but never did open up much. I was able to tell the ME, however, they didn't have any family they might call. His only living relative was a son he'd had at 19 and never seen much. I remembered the son's first name. I did a quick search on my phone, but didn't come up with anything. The son probably hadn't taken Jim's last name, I realized. Either that or he was dead too. Sorts of people are dead these days. Given the circumstances, it was only natural for the ME to ask if Jim had mental problems, and to this I had to say yes. Well, probably. I mean, I suspected so. Nothing on the level of climbing up to the rafters, but he'd done a few things in recent months that didn't lay quite level on me. Take his garden, for instance. Jim had a garden patch with a couple of wire lattices that he used to grow a couple of tomato plants and a couple of banana peppers, occasionally a cucumber vine. I'd seen him go out and pick something and just slice it up and put it on a roll with some mayo, and that was a good enough dinner for an old bachelor. Only this year he hadn't done that. I'd watched all that stuff grow, ripen, change color, get big, get nasty, eventually fall off and spawn clouds of little dotty flies on the ground. And I asked him why he wasn't eating any of this stuff, and he said it didn't look right. He didn't care for the shape it was growing in. It didn't smell right either. He thought there might be some soil contamination. And he was afraid to touch or even approach it. Warned me away too, seemed to think I was just itching to eat those rank vegetables turning to goo on the lawn. Don't try and eat those while I'm not looking, he said. He said it might turn me into something scary. Turn me into something? Did I hear that right? Like a werewolf or I asked what it could turn me into, and he scoffed cryptically and said, take your pick. Now, a botanist I am not, but I'm fairly sure that doesn't happen. The ME, by his own admission, wasn't the handiest person in the universe, and he had no idea from what angle he might approach this task. Jim's body was in a most unusual position, perched in between the brace and the crossbeam, with his right foot caught between the roof and the beam, his left leg hanging down in a space between the beams, pointing towards the floor at an almost 90-degree angle. Jim's torso was squished between the roof and the rafter, and his belly swelled to fill the angle like overproofed bread dough. He did have quite the belly on him, but it still seemed incredible that his body filled enough space that he was stuck. Of course, there was a bloating factor to consider. Bodies bloat, especially in hot conditions. There was a beam stuck right between one of Jim's love handles and his ribs. I thought that looks painful before I thought better of it. And then I thought better of thinking better of it because logically he must have been alive and conscious in that position at some point. His left arm was stretched out to the next beam ahead of him, his left wrist resting on it, fingers dangling over the edge. His right arm was crooked, forearm resting on the beam parallel to it, and his head was turned to the side on the back of his right hand as if he was taking a nap up there, using his own hand as a pillow. For all we knew, that's what happened. The paramedics were a young bunch, not looking like they'd had many years on the job. They had braced ladders just about everywhere near Jim's body there was space to do so. They pulled from every conceivable angle. Nothing was working. It was obvious that we were going to need to cut something out. With no next of kin to say what part of the house they'd prefer destroyed, we were forced to choose between either cutting the rafters out or making a hole in the roof from outside. The former was simpler, but incurred the risk of Jim's body dropping and possibly, depending on how decomposed he turned out to be, making a great big mess on the floor, which would not only be hugely revolting, but also make an autopsy 1,000 times trickier. The latter avoided all that, but might make the house harder to sell later if we were worried about that kind of thing, which I didn't see why we should be. It was all probably going up for auction anyway. Still, one's general instinct is to choose the less destructive option first, hence the choice was made to cut the rafters. The paramedics rustled up some jigsaws and Dremels. I was impressed at their Boy Scout-esque preparedness and told them so. They said that saws were an absolute necessity in their line of work, especially these days. Hadn't I ever seen those TV shows about the 1,000-pound people, how they had heart attacks or whatever, and you had to widen the door frame or maybe even take a wall out of the house to get them to the hospital? I could tell they'd started on this topic before their sensitivity seminars kicked in, and, unable to reverse course now, they were choosing their words carefully to avoid sounding like they were casting judgment on anyone who managed to get that fat. It didn't entirely succeed. Before long, one of the paramedics, a sturdy blonde woman, was on a ladder, a couple steps up. The whine of the skill saw filled the attic, and a small pile of fine sawdust collected next to the ladder. The other paramedic, a skinny man with dark, bunchy hair, was ineffectually watching from the floor and telling her not to get her saw blade too close to the flesh. There was a splintering snap, and the lower part of Jim's body sagged, but made no sign of falling to the floor. Undaunted, the blonde scooched the ladder up to the rafter, which cradled Jim's upper body, and made ready to start sawing it too. The ME pulled me over and asked if I wanted to help catch the body when it fell. I was nonplussed. Was I licensed, or however you put it, to touch bodies? The ME said that if he said I was okay, no one would say boo about it. Felt like he kind of put me in a spot where I looked like a chicken shit if I didn't, but as I've already said, I'll volunteer for anything. It didn't truly hit me until I was already underneath Jim, holding my hands out wide above me like a little kid trying to catch his first football, that I was about to touch a corpse. I was hoping to catch Jim by the torso, well swaddled by Jim's typical old man clothes, corduroy pants, flannel shirt, and, but for the summer heat, ordinarily a woolly gray cardigan covered with pills. Still, though, I would be able to detect with my fingers something beneath the clothes, and that something I was sure would feel different, qualitatively, something you could never mistake for living flesh. Would Jim still be in rigor? What did rigor feel like? Stiff like a flexed muscle? Like wood? Like rock? For some reason, I couldn't stop imagining the solid, impassive muscle flanks of a horse or cow. On the other hand, maybe putrefaction would have already set in, and if so, what would that feel like? This time, my mind kept jumping to fruit. Bruised apple, soft banana, overripe plum or apricot, disintegrating tomatoes on Jim's lawn. Would the flesh give underneath my fingers? Would it break open? Would it squish? Would it issue juice? What would the rot smell like? There was a smell in the air, I realized, something I hadn't picked up on before, kind of reminiscent of a cat fart. But I couldn't tell whether it was rot or whether it was shit in Jim's pants. I knew people shit themselves often after death. I was full of little tidbits like these, I realized. Thank you, CSI. Seemed like it was taking forever to saw through that rafter. like that saw blade was catching in the flow of time, making it shudder and inch its way past. I knew the blonde paramedic was just being careful, but I got the impression she could be going a bit faster if she wanted to. The air in the attic, already hot, thick, stuffed with the odors of our errand, the attic dust we were displacing, the sawdust we were creating, and the faint reek that might have been shit, it might have been rotten flesh, swelled, vibrated with waiting. I was holding my hands up so that they were nearly touching Jim's lower trunk and upper leg. My arms were beginning to ache from holding them ready for so long. I'd had my ears pricked up and focused through the whine of the saw as best I could for a telltale crack that would indicate that Jim was about to tumble onto me. I never got to it. Maybe it was too stuffy in that attic. Maybe I was dehydrated. Maybe I was lured into a sort of hypnosis by the thin whine of that saw. Maybe I was just more worked up emotionally by this whole scenario than I'd been able to admit, even to myself. Whatever it was, static flooded into the edges of my vision. I lost a few seconds somewhere and came back around on the floor with a pain in my tailbone. And Jim was already on the floor right alongside me. It was embarrassing to say the least. I mean, what kind of man faints? I swore up and down to the paramedics that this was not typical of me at all. I couldn't remember ever fainting before, if that's indeed what had happened. They kept hovering around me with their pulse oxes and everything else in their goodie bags, wanting to look into my eyes and so forth. And I did my best to shoo them away. I felt fine, I really did. Thanks, but not necessary. And they finally broke off after the ME told them I was going to be okay. He shot me an arched brow look, which I couldn't interpret and didn't appreciate. There was Jim. I tried to look at him casually because I was already embarrassed by my lack of chill in front of the corpse handlers, but I found myself looking a good long while, or what felt like one. I had expected Jim to look way different than he did. His eyes were closed and he could have been sleeping. Such a trite thing to say about the dead, but he really did. The mottled blue of his skin made him look cold, which he literally was, of course, but you know what I mean. Like it was winter and he'd spent a horrible night locked outside, underdressed in a biting wind chill. And despite the stifling heat in the attic, I felt a sympathetic wave of cold flop over me. His wrist had slipped out from under his cheekbone, and there was a big scarlet stripe where his face had rested against his hand. Another CSI tidbit told me that blood had probably pooled there. Jim's lips were pulled down in kind of an annoyed scowl, like he was having a perfectly good nap until we barged in. That would be me one day, I realized. One day I'd be cold and blue, and other people would be settling my affairs for me and picking me up and taking me someplace I would never ever leave again. Be it. That'd be all I got. If I wasn't done, wasn't satisfied, if my life still didn't look how I wanted it to, well, that's too bad, Sonny. But if we gave you an extension, we'd have to give one to everybody, and wouldn't be fair to those folks who had their shit together. Is this how Jim wanted for himself? Growing old and alone and friendless in this bare old box of a house, while his mind turned to yogurt, dying burrowed up in his attic like an animal, with only his neighbor to carry out whatever his final wishes might be. The finality things hit me like a vortex opening up beneath me. You can think there's plenty of time left, but that wheel can stop at any time. Wherever you are when it does is where you end up. Wish I could say that this is where I turned my aimless life around, started living authentically, going after my goals, more assertion and verve, all that shit. But the dirty little secret is that death in your social circle is not the great motivating event it's made out to be. I honestly don't know how anyone who's made it to adulthood still holds on to that hokum, but you can say the same about a lot of things. Never forgot Jim, though. Some years later, when I myself died, in less lonely circumstances than Jim's, though not as far different as I would have liked, I found out with the peculiar kind of omniscience open to you in what's somewhat misleadingly called the afterlife, that Jim's mind had indeed been going, but that hadn't had anything to do with why he was in the rafters. Jim actually had a perfectly good reason to be up there, if you can believe it. That Squinty had gotten into his attic, or 13 striped ground squirrel, if you're not from around here. Jim hadn't any experience with a Squinty in the attic, since they normally stick to the ground, hence their name. But this one had gotten scooped up by a hawk, and then managed to wriggle free in midair, landing by pure chance in Jim's gutters. The sun-heated metal burned the creature's feet, and in its scramble to find a cooler spot, It crammed its tiny body in a space it found between the eave and the siding, eventually making its way inside to Jim's attic. The Squinty was in distress and was making very loud, very unnatural cries. Jim found it zipping around about up there. He was not quite certain what he was seeing and decided he had to have the animal in his hands in front of him just to make sure his mind wasn't playing tricks on him. He hauled himself up there with 2 badminton rackets, one in each hand, that he intended to catch the Squinty in between, having had to do this before when bats got inside. Between the muscular effort and stretching into such a weird position, Jim had an embolism, died quickly, but not instantly, and dropped the badminton rackets, which hadn't attracted our notice. The attic is where you keep things like that, right? And the Squinty had stayed in the attic overnight and disappeared quick as a wink when I opened the attic window the next morning. Crazy story, right? 1 in a billion odds, had to be. I wish I knew what was going through Jim's mind during those few minutes in the rafters where he must have known this ticket was punched. I want to know if my suspicions at the time were on the mark. I want to know if he felt scared, embarrassed, like his life was wasted. How did he think that scene in his attic was going to play out? Did he know I was going to be the one to find him? Was he happy about that? Did he have any particular affection for me, or was I just the one who happened to be there when the wheel stopped? Did he come to the realization that I did in the last few minutes before I died, that the idea that you can be prepared for death, there's a certain way to die, or a certain set of circumstances under which a person can die that feels right and natural and fitting, like something out of a storybook, and isn't just horrible and awkward and sad and frustrating and a wrong feeling on every possible level. It's just another one of those stupid ideas adults who should know better persist in believing. I've watched him die over and over and studied his face from every angle for some clue whatsoever what he was feeling. Jim was as inscrutable dying as he ever was living. I don't know why I want to know so bad, but I do. It's really the only thing I have left that can even be called a desire anymore. I feel it behind my eyes like a nicotine craving. Even just talking to Jim one more time would settle it, I think. But you can't do it. It's not how any of this works.
Tyler, I'm glad you read this piece again, because this is one of my all-time favorite pieces that you've read here. And
Oh, no shit.
no, yeah, it absolutely is, because this piece is so perfectly put together. And it's been long enough since you read it last that I can't say exactly what you've changed here, but everything here works, right? And everything here is like the best aspects of like a Tyler Peterson piece, right? First of all, it has all of the gross detail that we expect, right? And it has the gross detail in exactly the like meticulous, what's the word I'm looking for? The kind of like meticulous analytical way that you break down the grossest fucking shit in the world. I love I love and hate the use of the phrase issue juice here. I don't feel like that was in the earlier draft, because I feel like that would still be bothering me like several months later if it was. So it has that aspect. But what really I think elevates this one is your narrator's voice. The like folksy, like worldly wise but slightly naive voice of your narrator is like the perfect contrast to the like the frank mortician ugliness of the subject matter. And it just those two aspects of it, you would think they'd be at odds with each other, but they actually come together perfectly in a way that I think makes a piece really work. And then that final movement that the piece has where the narrator actually dies, where it becomes more than just like a meditation on the narrator's morality, where he has a moment of realization, but he actually does die and is completely unprepared for the afterlife. Just and that I think elevates the piece as well. I don't know. It comes together perfectly. It's a fantastic fucking story, Tyler, and I'm glad to hear it again.
Yeah. If I remember right, I read this, the Misery Loves Company where I read this was one of the last ones that Eris was at.
Really?
Yeah, she loved it. She didn't have enough good things to say about it. And yeah, that happened. And since I read it, a couple of my friends have died. So I don't know. This was just on my mind.
Yeah, I will say that you have that one line in there. I think I put it in the chat.
Like, William, can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
I think there's something like really interesting about this because it's like how we regard death when you come across it, like in your day-to-day life. You like there's some part of you that's like, this isn't fair, like this is a bit fucked, but like you just kind of take it in and like you don't try to like
You don't really
feel
process.
differently
You
about
can't.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're not trying to like construct in your mind a certain way, you're like, okay, this is exactly how it comes at me. I guess this is all right, and then you just like keep taking steps forward. Like that's I don't
Yeah,
know, like
exactly. You
the
rationalize. and you
necessity
move
of
on. Oh, sorry.
the,
Yeah.
the necessity of like having the job of dealing with dead people, like it'll fuck with your head in a weird way. Like if you have to interact with dead bodies constantly, because that's not normal for mammals or whatever, right? So it's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, Gigi, you actually have the story you wrote based on your experiences visiting
Yeah.
morgue, and it's
Yeah.
got a similar
The
vibe,
coroner's
to it, like
office.
the way that you can't rationalize and you can't really cope with death, and the way when confronted with like the reality of death, and like this piece, like once again, the reality of death isn't simply like that your life will end, but the like the like ugly, nasty details, the like physical.
A person like swapping from a human to a body, like that happens, and
Yeah.
then you have to like logistically you have to deal with this physical problem, and yet but some part of the back of your mind is still going, this was a person, they had feelings, they had a favorite food, and that fucks with you.
And
I
it's
can't
fucked.
imagine it
It's
wouldn't. Yeah.
profoundly fucked.
And then the way you deal with that just kind of reveals, it makes the narrator seem like a genuinely just real, like Tyler, if you can read this, holy shit, it could be a hell of a writer.
Yeah, Gigi,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the line I was looking for is all sorts of people are dead these days. I will say that line hit a little different than the last time you read it, you know? But yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Good
remember
stuff.
who told me this, but it's like how they put it. It's like you don't have a body. Never mind, it'll come back to me.
While you're thinking on that, I have someone calling himself Justin Legion, and I've had him sitting in the waiting room for a while. I assume it's a kid, but a troll. But the fact that he's been so patient has me wondering. So if you've got a friend in your waiting room, in the waiting room, anyone, just let me know and I'll let him in. But anyway, Tyler, what were you going to say?
I lost it.
Anyway, Tyler, it's a great story. As I said, it's one of my favorites by you. So I'm glad to hear it again, man. Thank you.
It sounded like you were kind of like on an Alan Watts sort of train of thought, like your body isn't your body, but you're sort of something in it.
Oh, I remember what it was. You don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have
Yes.
a body.
Yes, that's the fucking yes.
Oh,
there we fucking go.
It's like-
C.S. Lewis, isn't it?
Is it?
I think that's Lewis.
I don't know.
Oh, maybe
It does sound more Western than Eastern. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I'm
separation
not sure
stuff.
yeah, I've heard the quote before though. I think that's cool.
Good way of
Yeah,
looking at
so,
stuff, though. Yeah,
Tyler,
you
that-
just
that
kind of
piece-
you hang out for a bit.
that piece, the smells and the stuff that you do with that. Like I think I mentioned this the first time you read it, but the thing you do with like the odors, like the cat fart thing, and the descriptions of the odors is like super spot on. I think in another one of your stories that dealt with like the horse being killed in the creek or whatever, and they had to go recover it. That one
Yep.
has the same thing going on as this, and
That
I
was
really-
my first ever piece for Misery Tourism.
Yeah. Yep.
No, it's I love the way you handle like the textural stuff, like like the texture and the smell of things.
Yeah, you do a very good job of describing stuff. It feels like it's in the room, and you go, "Oh, god damn it, man, come on."
Anyway, thank you, man. Colton's up next.
All right. I have two stories that I'm gonna read. The first one is leftover stuff from when I was in Mississippi, being unbelievably depressed. And the second story is an experimental piece that I wrote really quickly, like 2 days ago. Yeah, I hope y'all like it. All right. This first one is called Shadows Moving Through Smoke. But to confine yourselves to abuse, to confine ourselves to abuse. And that is called nihilism. And that is called nihilism. Bazarov speaking to Pavel Petrovich from Fathers and Sons, 1861 by Ivan Turgenev. Purple flowers in a belch, laughter at the doorstep, the hesitation, what will be and what is, the movement in between, the taste of hairs on your upper lip, a sip of beer hitting the bottom of my red stomach, a tiny sock full of gold coins, playing carnival at the mall. Today is a special day. It's your very own D-Day. Being out on the front lawn with my neighbors, sitting around a card table playing gin rummy, I suddenly start to laugh uncontrollably, a cackling that won't stop. It seems the acid come up was quicker than I thought. I went inside my apartment to drink some water. I was dancing and jumping and jiggling and giggling under my breath as faucet water spilled all over my wood floor. In the bathroom, I noticed my lip was bleeding. I fingered the blood around my lips. Curiosity kicked in. I pulled out my razor and flicked it across my face. Nothing. I segmented the wound further. Nothing. I start shaving multiple layers into the gash so that more blood would spill, running that sharpness over puffy pinkness, feeling each snag of flesh, nick and flinch, thoughtlessly creating a scratched up window shade, a new serrated pathway leading into my throat. An even greater volume of red saliva fell onto my shirt. I swabbed some of this bloody mixture from my ribbed cuts and rubbed it around my eyes. I looked into my mirror, frowned, and then smiled. I felt bodiless, a floating clown head filled with noble laughing gas and sharpened teeth. I connected to the rest of my body and clunked out from my bathroom towards my personal library. Here I hoped to find words worthy of visual, bodily stimulation. I went back outside with my new makeup, clutching the Quran, the Book of Mormon, and the Bible, white, King James Version, against my chest. I felt that these holy texts together would protect me. I was wrong. I returned to the card table with a violent melancholy arresting my chest. Small tears washed away my body liquid makeup. I threw the books onto the grass. I became silent and perturbed, physically incapable, mentally spinning, aware of everything happening inside of me. There's a Chicago man. He lives in Houston, but he's here visiting Memphis for the holidays. Guy's a former Marine and retired federal police officer, 7 years. He flashes me his badge and Army ID. Everything's legit. How much for the painting on the wall? I turn away from breaking down cardboard boxes and tell him, I don't know. There's no price on it. Owner just brought it in one day. Can you call him? I mean, again, I don't think it's for sale. I know how things work. Just call your owner. Relentless. Luckily, the kitchen manager is nearby as the conversation is happening. I ask him if he can call the owner. He does. The owner picks up, says it's not for sale. The guy at the bar nods his head. Understandable. It's a very nice piece of art. The expressionist painting hanging on the exposed brick directly over our liquor cabinet depicts a scene from that Aesop fable, The Tortoise and the Hare. The tortoise is yellow with a brown and orange speckled shell. The tortoise himself is a darker army green, almost brown. The creature is running out towards the bottom right section of the canvas. The hare, on the other hand, is careening off of the tortoise's shell towards the top left of the canvas. This collision occurs in the center of the piece. The hare is tumbling in a violent manner, paws flailing and other limbs shocked into motion. Purple and dark pink colors highlight and shadow the hare's body. The colors of the hare are mixed like oil and water to appear sickly, whereas the tortoise has a balance of warm color and texture. Maybe the painting is about sex. It's usually all about sex. The canvas background below the two animals is two-dimensional. Bottom half of the work is a dark maroon floor. Above the animals is a strong coat of black paint. Layered over the black background are red and white graph lines, some solid, some dotted, going up towards the top right corner of the canvas, over the tortoise and the hare. The former disciplined man stares at the work, still, arms crossed, mouth slightly ajar. Streetlight reflections in road puddles, poodles in microwaves, broken yellow yoke, plastic engine skid plate digging underneath quickly moving vehicle hitting highway chuck holes and dismembered deer limbs. My son's a wrestler, did MMA for fun. I watched one of his high school fights, the year they made elbows legal, and I almost got arrested trying to rip out the other wrestler kid's eyes as he was bashing his elbow into my baby's head locked between his prepubescent legs. I stopped going to my oldest son's fights after that. I couldn't handle it, but I'm a good mom. So I just drove him to his matches and then waited outside in the parking lot. I listen to audiobooks now. It's more relaxing. Distraction, really. The diner waitress pauses. Did you want bacon with your waffles? I nod. Okay, just want to make sure. Anyways, my sister loves to watch my boy fight. It's her escape from motherhood. Oh, my sister. She gave birth to all girls. I'm glad. I gave birth to all boys. All of them play sports. And that's the way I wanted it. If I had a girl, I probably would have drowned her in the tub after the second year, or at least when she started to learn to talk. Hold on, our cook is outside smoking. Let me go get him. Pulling up to my friend's house off Highway 51. Her place is near Coldwater, Mississippi. My car starts to make a funny noise driving over the loose gravel road leading up to her house. My friend makes me park in the grass so we can pop the hood. We both think it's my oil. Fuck, I'm stuck in Mississippi. Just fucking shoot me. My friend bites me and makes me snap out of it. We walk behind her small, secluded home located behind her grandfather's house, a stone's throw down a path of tall trees. Her father owns a construction company, so we built different living concepts and storage warehouses behind his childhood home. We both walk through muddy tire tracks that zigzag around broken down caterpillars and bobcats. We walk into a giant rusty steel water sewage pipe filled with littler black pipes and take pictures. We slowly stroll through the fog near a pond and my friend tells me not to yell. I ask her, why? Am I going to be raped? She punches me and says, shut up, and points me to the water. White moving specks and wet ripples is what I first see. Then I see the whiskers, and then I see their bodies. A giant gathering, dozens of 3 feet long navy blue catfish, all swimming around the edge of this small body of water. I let out a quiet, whoa, what the fuck? To which my friend says, yeah, I know. She walks me over to a giant rock known as the feeding rock. The fish follow us and wait there, a militia of aquatic monsters, hungry and battle ready. I can see some of the mud slugs have small chunks of their body bitten off, red and white gashes that glow in the full moonlight. After feeding the flathead small insects and crabs, my friend looks at her watch and sighs. It's 2 a.m. The fog is getting worse. We force our way back through the screen of dusty air, weaving past shrapnel and metal roofing bits. We try to look at the sky, but we can't see shit. Just look at the ground, move fast. I'm trapped here, busying myself with nothing, lost in rural darkness. What do I do for us, for my name's sake? Will I watch you die too? Reoccurrences of death anxiety are constant underpinnings. My friend leads me to her car and we drive to a mechanic shop. We buy 0W20 oil. When we finish up, we sit in the car looking at trucks flying by the sundown horizon. My friend taps me and I turn to see a guy standing next to his truck with a flat tire. The guy only has one leg. I lean over and tell my friend, remember when I hit that veteran with one leg? I reversed in a parking lot and tapped his bumper. I felt like such an idiot. I mean, how do you hit a guy who doesn't even have 2 legs? I'm glad he was cool about it though. He didn't give a fuck. He probably wishes I killed him or something. I wonder if that guy over there in the parking lot wishes he was dead. I wonder where he served and for how long. I wonder what he thinks about himself. Maybe he wishes he could be an actual automobile, one with replaceable parts, a thing that could be rebuilt from the ground up, an interchangeable, mindless, toothless, heartless killing machine. All right, This next piece is called Forced Copulation and the Creation of Paradise. Covering your ears with a fuzzy blanket while looking at the tiny speck of hallway light protruding through the peephole on the front door. Saying grace before eating food wrapped in tinfoil. Bathtub filled with rubber ducky isopods. Close your eyes, snap your fingers, and think about your own Garden of Eden. Writing on a bathroom wall, 2023. This is all inclusive, but you can't bring that darky shit or Grand Wizard shit in my house. That ain't letting in. The queen got 12 woman, a pistol. I bet you bowed down. Did hear you say you was not going to bear down and beg the queen for her mercy? Bet you do. What do you want to bet? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. The bartender is an abuser who likes to beat women. Who doesn't? I'm gay and bipolar. Please help me. Shut up. I'm gay and bipolar. Please help me. Call XXX. Lick some balls for some meth? Do drugs. They make you smart. No. Yes. If death rates is high, then why are we having the Iraq genocide? James Bateman's package full of flowers sent to Charles Darwin, January 1862. Angraecum sesquipedale, I don't fucking know. Star of Bethlehem orchid. Abnormally lengthy nectary necessitating long proboscis. Who is Darwin's mystery pollinator? Alfred Russel Wallace predicts African sphinx moth. 20th century, an age of discovery. Location, Madagascar. Collectors, Oberthur and Mobile. Xanthopan morgani predicta. Rothschild and Jordan, 1903. Walter Rothschild, zoologist, conservative, Zionist. World War I partition of the Ottoman Empire. Letter in the mail for Walter. From Arthur James Balfour. Contents, the Balfour Declaration, 1917. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. Little 5-year-old boy getting yelled at by his mom at the YMCA swimming pool because he called this bald lady bowling ball while not realizing the woman had started chemo a few weeks earlier. I keep old photos of fat me so that even when I feel like shit, I can remind myself that I've done something right. I'm friends with this person and they got accused by a bunch of people, got called out on a bunch of social media sites, the usual rape and abuse stuff. Why are you guys still following him? Why do you hang out with known rapists? I got a text from some girl who told me they saw me with him and they wanted to warn me about his behavior. He didn't do a public apology or whatever, just shut himself away from friends and family. He reached out to me and I just let him cry and talk about how he's feeling about everything. He feels guilt, shame, anger. What the fuck are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to feel? He shares his location with me so that I know he's okay. I think about the plane filled with bullet holes, survivorship bias. How do I help this thing fly better? What is he not telling me? I think about the people texting me. Why are people okay with destroying other people? What am I supposed to do? What's that phrase from that Black Mirror pilot episode? This is virgin territory. There is no playbook. No matter what, somebody is getting hurt. And you try staring into the asshole of a pig you're about to fuck and tell me anything makes sense anymore. I'm not a person of the world and I'm not responsible for him. Why do other people not offer to help? Some people pretend not to know. Who do you trust? I'm not a therapist. Sometimes you don't know if you have a repeat offender until you do. I think about this a lot. Who is allowed to relapse? Only those who destroy themselves? I bet the parents of those kids who shot up schools think about destruction. What are the signs we're supposed to look for now? When do we find beauty in decay? I think about this guy's parents. No parent wants to think that their kid is inhuman. No parent wants to see their baby become a monster. Some parents will do anything to protect their child. Are you a bad parent if you do that? What does it mean to be a good parent? What does it mean to be a good person? I don't like good people. I don't think I'm a good person. I started to forget about all that shit. I'm just trying to focus on one thing, and that is helping my friend. Dainty doozy darling with peeling palms and bleeding knuckles, fingers covered in black tattoos, ice freezing over tree twigs. The branches break and you duck for cover. The anticipation, the almost there, each natural cable snapping under frozen pressure, the loud break, the hush of the birds. Snap back to the staring at space and shaking your face to readjust your eyes, your head, your neck, your gaze. Don't forget to buy your boozy bottled brew. Don't forget her Monster Energy drink. Don't forget to be paranoid about your writing. Don't forget to be paranoid in general. Don't forget to forget. Close up the wounds with super glue and duct tape. Guillotine Mother Nature. Motherfucking Mother Nature. Witness the warriors swinging their swords, claiming their right with a dagger to the brain. That's it.
Colton, first of all, I have to ask, is that all real graffiti that you saw in bathroom stalls?
So that was all, let me see. Not in a bathroom stall, but all this is graffiti I have found just like around Memphis, like on benches, on just like in just straight up like on yield and stop signs. So yeah.
That's fucking incredible. That just next level shit. Like the misspellings and just like so that like the fundamental misunderstanding of reality present in some of these is just sublime. Like, but anyway, setting that aside, the first story here is fucking heartbreaking, man. I swear to God, I had a fucking lump in my throat. Especially the last third of it. Like the entire segment where you and your friend go and feed the catfish and you're navigating the maze of like discarded construction materials and then like the realization of like you had a line in there that like perfectly captures like what I'm feeling right now, trapped in fucking Malone, New York. I'm trapped here busying myself with nothing, lost in rural darkness. It's like, damn. And that line alone would have probably gotten me, but that line, the way it occurs in the text after this magical, quasi magical moment of like rural beauty, right? Like after going and having this experience, this like almost otherworldly experience that you could only have on the absolute fringe of society, just like right on the line where society ceases to exist. It's just powerful, powerful fucking shit. And the way that arrives is the culmination of the rest of this story, which is really, for you, unusually meditative, right? And unusually like it your shit often moves very quickly and changes gears very quickly, which is something I've complimented you on in the past, which is something that usually works extremely well in your work. But I'm so glad it doesn't in this story. In this story, instead, it slowly eases into this mood of real like malaise, but also like of beauty. It's just a really fucking effective story, Colton, and it hit me where I hurt anyway. And the new one is fantastic. The new one is fantastic too. And in the way that your work always is fantastic, the juxtaposition of different parts and the way they fit together. But that first story, man, it fucking killed me.
And that, I'm glad you say that because I'm looking at the first, that was my first, I think the first story in a long time where I just have these long expositions and like, I'm thinking like, is this, this, I mean, the guy at the bar who was like an army vet and a federal police officer, real dude. And he was just like, I want to buy this painting. I
Oh
want to
my
buy
God,
this.
the
Terrifying.
painting thing it's unbelievable. But what I love about that exchange is the way he walks it back. Like he gets the guy to call him up, and you think there's gonna be this moment where he like haggles with he takes
Oh,
the
yeah.
phone and he haggles with the guy. Instead, he's so accepting of it, and you almost
Like-
get the impression like that he just wanted the painter to know how much he appreciated the work. And it's such a surprise. It comes as such a surprise in the piece, but it's so effective.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, William. Really, I really do. Thank you.
Man, it's a fantastic fucking story. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I feel like I just
Yeah.
cut you off while you were saying something. And okay. Well, thank
I
you.
love the first piece, and the part with the sheet with the razor is really, really intense and like very true. Like for anybody who's ever like harmed himself or done shit like that part really hit me. Really like damn, that like the way you describe this stuff is very, very intensely true. Like the how things escalate, kind of cascade into each other as far as like that kind of shit. Like
Also, just like I don't know why I've stopped, but like I used to do acid, and I would just like notice like some parts of my body just wouldn't like feel pain. Like some usually it would be
Yeah.
my fingers and my hands that would just be this like loosey goosey. And then I didn't cut my lip open. I would not be here if I was doing that shit. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
just wanted to imagine like, okay, what would have if I wanted to make myself a clown, what would I do? And it would just be just serrating my lips. And but
yeah,
it's
yeah, it's a
weird. Dude.
very,
Body-
very powerful fucking shit. Yeah.
yeah. Drugs are bad though. Very, very
I'm going to pretend to be surprised at the fact that you used to do acid. This is not the writing of a man who has abused psychedelics. Anyway, Colton, it's great stuff as usual. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, William.
GG is next.
Oh shit. All right. I got some poems here. I got a link. Oh Jesus, I'm all red. Hold on, let me fix that real quick. William shared the link to the doc, so I'll just read off that. First one's got a long title, the rest are regular ass poems. Engine oil on my face with lipstick making it racist. I hand a black dude an expensive winter jacket, standing in line at an airport Starbucks, a paper bag containing a ham and bread sandwich and original Lay's, and say, please don't come to rely on this. You can do better. I have the best politics with the best apps and websites. Look, see, other people know it's important because of me. Next one's called Woman. Woman? Women? Out of 10 poems, out of 60, it doesn't matter. Only a few can be loved. This next one's called Office Monkey. Get your coworkers to finally like you. Work from home is fully on the table. They see you swing on camera from the first time from the light fixture above your boss's desk. That's the last one. This one's called Oh Sweet. It seemed strange at first, this Muslim man, white fleck beard, pictures of his family, pictures of some holy dude, and a mom behind the counter of the liquor store. The implacable multinational accent calls me handsome, sweetie, as I check out. Here in Broomfield, Colorado. After months, I smile. I met a girl. We're making dinner together tonight. He claps his hands, smiles, says, sweetie, I knew you would. You're a handsome lad. That's all I got.
GG, a ham and bread sandwich is an incredible turn of phrase. I love that because it emphasizes it, and it's perfect in this context because it emphasizes just how meager the thing is that's being given, right? Like if you said a ham sandwich, it'd be like, oh, okay, it's a ham sandwich, right? Like that's kind of a nice gesture, even if you're doing it in blackface. But the fact that it's a ham and bread sandwich emphasizes everything that's missing from the sandwich, right? It's just a slice of ham and a couple of pieces of white bread or whatever, and it's just an amazing like.
Also, just like what a retarded attempt at a gesture. Just
Exactly, right? Like if all the things you could have given this guy a ham and bread sandwich,
it's the shit you see on social media.
Right.
It's just annoying. Yeah.
And this is another poem that of yours that has a wonderful like contrast between the title and the actual body, the stanza of the poem. But I also though Office Monkey is beautiful. Your shit's taken a dark turn, man, but I like how you're keeping it playful even as you get darker and darker with your writing. Because like that final scene of Office Monkey could be like a moment of like revolt and rebellion, or it could be a suicide, right? And
Oh, I didn't mean that. I don't know what you're talking about.
oh, of course, I'm sorry. Of course.
It's funny how those two things can coincide.
Right, isn't it? Isn't
Gigi, that last poem, the Sweetie one, I really, really, for some reason, like that.
Yeah.
It's just so wholesomely like crafted to be like a slice of light, like it's almost like ASMR wholesome type.
and you anticipate, because of your biases and shit, or at least maybe this is speaking to me or whatever, but you anticipate it going in a more insidious direction than it does. Like you're like, oh, what is this going to be? You know, be all of the like preconceptions we have. Is this going to be a poem about terrorism, or is this going to be a poem about a hate crime, or is this going to be a poem? And instead, it's the most wholesome fucking shit, and it's just I don't know.
That one.
I love that dude. He called me Sweetie for months. I was like, is this dude gay? It's like, no, he's just Muslim. And like Muslim dudes are tired of complimenting other dudes. Apparently that's the thing.
Man, but great shit, Gigi.
Thanks for letting me read.
Yeah, thank you for reading. And Adam's next. Justin Legion still patiently waiting in the waiting room. Maybe I'll let him in for the after party. I don't know. I feel sorry for the kid, but I'm assuming he's not a I'm assuming he's a troll. Who the fuck is named Justin Legion? It's gonna turn out to be Jan or Frank or something, and then I'm gonna feel really bad.
Can you send a message to the person to ferret it out?
Let him in.
Oh.
Let him in. Let's see how they do for 5 minutes.
Ask him ask him a trade secret from past times or something.
Oh my gosh, I can send messages to waiting room participants. Thank you, Adam.
Should I wait?
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
This is just a short poem I wrote called White Beater Coat Chirping 1000. So said anyway, reckless Tom, a shyster who turns his honest clients' pockets into sieves. It's simpatico, he says, smoking his clove cigarette. Tom is left-handed. I volunteer any unsympathetic, unkind, or miserly person, says Silver Lisa, whose hair is dyed. She is, of course, volunteering others for the meth installation put on by Habitat for Humanity. She signs off AOL and bleeds her arm. Nikolai left Oakland for the nut house. Now he uses college words. He's clean, except for bath salts. He's getting into politics again. Remember the last election when he gave the senator a gypsy's leave? I don't want to talk about him. Hubba hubba from White Sean as he commiserates over an appendix, the organ, LOL. Sean used to be double-gated but got married and has 3 goats. He lives down on the Gulf and hates taxes. Dairy John snaps a bronco with a female's competence. This is meant as praise, don't you know? It's freezing, but consider the following. Redcoats, Minutemen, Bluebellies, Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. The change from a one-horse town to Chevy was not instantly, though Carruthers still makes word lists and submits. There is nothing in common, the foregoing, etc. Carruthers is dovetailed, hates anonymous letters like everyone. The week has gone by. It's a coffee and cake job. His browser is open to 1 million tabs. Indiscernible, though. He's in private mode, LOL. I just wish I could tie it up. Notice of hearing, summons. I'll text my lawyer. Have you gotten the discovery yet? LOL. I'm not pleading, LOL. When is court? LOL. Where's their offer? LOL. I'm here, LOL. I don't see you, LOL. I'm in court. Where are you, LOL? The judge is asking where you are, LOL. They called my case, LOL. You're fired, LOL. I want my money back, LOL. LOL, my friend saw a photo of you and a wife beater and he called it a white beater and my phone went off in my coat. Do you know when court is? I'm high as fuck right now, LOL. I bet the cops won't show up for trial. Let's take it all the way. I'm not pleading to shit. I don't care. My mom said her boyfriend would have got the case dumped by now. Where are you, LOL? Tom, where the fuck are you? Left-handed piece of shit. Answer me, LOL. Tell me what you know about Jesus. Tell me what time you went to bed. My calendar has space XX-X 555-555-5555. Text. Jenny is a slut and she's fucking lying, bro. Mark is a hip cat who watches cable news. On the side, he's into snuff scenes. Well heeled. He rubs 2 pennies together and Shazam smacks into an old woman who falls down and goes boom. She is on a stretcher for the umpteenth time. Mark hits the number lock key and types in his password from his desk. He has already forgotten the old woman. Jaden is a twerp who dials wrong numbers for a living, but he sketches nicely, mostly semi-nudes. His ex was into furry shit, LOL. Last I heard, she was smashing baggage at the airport. His ex was Tom's daughter. Yeah, the lawyer. It's coming together, promise. It's not. It's garbage day. Did you bring the bin out? What, today? Recall for a moment the opening lines to the theme song at the beginning of Melrose Place and suppose that the word Google is an outdated term for a very large number, like a zillion. Now try telling that to Charlie Noble. Who? The proprietor of Thinking and Studying, I reckon. Everything is red. That is, the noose is hanging. No dice. That's sad. Hot Bob dove into shallow water and was instantly destroyed. He is alive still and hooked to tubes. He's still hot, LOL. Fat ass Barb sent a 10-carat set to New York and pinned them to the ears of that girl who was standing in front of the bowl. They were immediately stolen. Suffering Christ. I don't pretend to know everything, like Greta and her gang. They have the swagger of ogres and are twice as ugly, LOL. Sunday thinkers, the lot of them. Maybe they need to go swabbing down? Definitely. They're filthy. That's a fine mess. What? The court scheduling order, and you're fired. Buy me a Long Island at least? Sure. One for old time's sake. Best paralegal I've ever had, notwithstanding the time you shot me. That's water under the bridge. So it goes. Let's go get drunk. Ska, ska, ski. Fat Lung spent his life savings on a literal ball crawl replete with synthetic children. I don't want to talk about it. He's the most vile, disgusting human being to ever walk the craggy surface of this fucking rock. Hey, Larson. Just kidding. A marsupial tendon adducts a sex job, is ripped. The surgeon has a skull chromie around his neck and his face is covered in Sharpie. He is secretly female and has a protuberant mole on his neck. So what's new? He won't ever write sonnets to William, though he will talk about it insufferably and to no fucking end. John Padula, too, ordered wine. We are both snowbirds for the night. He's earnest. I am a spider. Stuart Dunmire was an extremely virile and sexually attractive and successful man, and Sally Field should have known how lucky she was. Even in the restaurant, mouth agape. The whole time? LOL, Daniel. I know most facets to the stand your ground law, even though Hick Ben went to prison and I was wrong about it. Perhaps I don't know a thing beyond the name of a few little critter books. There's jam in the station and my favorite food comes from a Foreman grill. I added the E. I hate being criticized adversely, just like you. Pam is a hypersensitive bitch who continually threatens to cut off her finger because she read about it and also refuses to engage in any discussion on the topic of reparations, even though she lives in Oakland, LOL. So she's a living martyr, precisely. The secrets of the Amazonian woman in the Skyway. I saw her once going to get something over lunch and she came back with an automated external defibrillator. She has a rose gold iPhone 13. I have a white chipped iPhone 4. I'm not complaining, but I kind of am. Why are all the flags half-mast? It's half-staff, not half-mast. Oh, Janice stole a Power C vitamin water at the March of Dimes and was temporarily detained. He had to go to Zoom court and pay $2.65 in restitution, LOL. Janice, the same, LOL. Hey, can I borrow your roof rake? We got over a foot yesterday. Hello? Good afternoon. Goyim, and Goyim. How may I direct your call? Is Tom in? He's in court. Can I take a message? Tell him Sprite called and he's fired. Muffled laughter from a moving car. Brent finally left Piedmont, where he sucked on THC gummies and did real estate. He's in Texas now, running some kind of racket where people in bars throw hatchets. He found a good church too. I'm so jealous. My daughter is reading a graphic novel called Boy Crazy Stacy. We had a dance party last night. I judged the songs. My son won. I want to live forever. I read all about Pascal's Wager. I listened to Bach. I sold my 38 special. I'm bored. I won't quote my favorite line from my favorite book of the last few years. She knows who she is, even though she's dead. You mean? Bingo. That's it.
Adam, this is nuts. This is wild. This is like the closest a poem I've read has come to being like a Robert Altman film, where you've got a guy talking in the foreground, you got a guy talking in the background, your eye is here, but also something is happening in frame over there. Because there are so many little hidden nods and references in this poem. Like there are, I caught like at least, I don't know, 4 or 5 callbacks to other poems you've written, right? Like the lawyer who, or the lawyer with the I almost said patient, with the client who ends every text message with lol. There are just so many like references to other Adam Johnson poems, lots of references to the scene, right? To Misery Loves Company, to other outsider writers, to all of this. And it's all happening and it's such grand chaos. And yet, like there's a through line. You're catching all these conversations. It feels like you're walking through a crowd of people talking, or like you're some kind of deranged psychic walking through a crowd reading everyone's minds. And it's so manic and frantic, and yet it all comes together so perfectly. It's a great poem, Adam.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for letting me read. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you for reading.
There were a couple points there that really had me cracking up. One was the Mrs. Doubtfire shit, which I the whole time, he's referencing that scene where she finds out that it's him, or whatever. It's like the whole time he was, the whole time, Daniel, the whole time, and that like you have the lull there, which oh my god, that's just so fucking good, man. Like this is so like William said, like frantic and like referential that like my head is about to explode right now. Like there's just so much shit in this that's, and again, like the way you're so playful with the language and shit is just, it's intensely good.
Thanks, Rudy. I really appreciate that. And I just happened to have watched Mrs. Doubtfire with my daughter, so it was top of mind.
Hell yeah.
Rudy's a huge Mrs. Doubtfire fan. I don't know how many times he like sneaks in jokes to Mrs. Doubtfire.
I fucking love that movie.
Anyway, thank you so much, Adam. So Troy is next, and then we're going to circle back to Eric to give him a chance to read his second piece, and then I think that's it for the night. So unless I forgot someone, if I forgot someone, put it in the chat. So Troy is up next.
Hey, what's up? Hold up, I gotta pull up a document. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Okay, awesome. Okay. This is kind of weird for me because this was like Oliver Mall asked me for something for some like interior decorating magazine or some shit. And wanted fiction about interiors and the interiority. And this is what I wrote. It's called Chorus Line. The day we moved in, there were footprints in the mud leading up to the porch. A faint smell of lavender greeted us in the entryway. A certain familiar warmth cut through us and melted the cold things. There was no trace of mud tracked in the hall where Hannah used to sleep, and no prints turned away. It appeared to be empty except for the items which came with the house. We flitted in and out of the rooms over worn wood floors. Dust motes circled visibly in the air. Stiff clothes still hung in tightly closed closets. We found brighter than emerald wallpaper in the kitchen. My wife said, "It's so him. I love it." His bedroom was still white, very clinical, not him. There were barely any overhead lights. Most of the house was lamplit, and the lamps scattered about in corners were not yet used to our shadows. I noticed some paint peeling in the upstairs bedroom, so I started at it with my fingertips. It was flaking off, didn't take much effort at all, though at one point I employed a spatula. I kept at it because of the markings. I noticed a thick line under the paint, then another and another. Then came all these names and dates and more lines. A whole history of growth that had been glossed over, a life, many lives. When I later repainted the room, I couldn't bring myself to paint over that spot. I moved a shelf in front of it and jokingly called it a tombstone. The first night, the old rotodial on the wall rang. My wife answered, dead silence. She put the phone back in its cradle and said, "That's weird. We didn't set up phone service, did we?" "No, look, the phone isn't even plugged in." We didn't get much sleep that night with all the creaking and banging and what sounded like footsteps. Just old house noises, I said. Next morning, we ate eggs and drank coffee in the kitchen. We had woken to a light snow that suddenly turned violent, almost blizzard-like. You could hear it hit the rooftop. The house was cold, the old furnace and single-pane windows unable to keep up with what was happening. I studied the birds on the couch we had inherited, the cross-hatching of the feathers, the cold blues and bright greens. I must have looked for over an hour. There was great beauty and intricacy there, but I wondered what I was missing, all those other things. The earrings that vertically framed her face, and a smile that looked cut into her. The makeup, the charm and class, her cleaning her hands in the sink, looking beautiful in the mirror where I stood behind her. As I was finishing up, I heard a shriek. I ran out of the bathroom with nothing but a towel on. I thought she'd been frightened, but no, it was a happy sound. She was looking into the backyard from the window. There were footsteps in the snow. They were coming toward the house, right up to the door. There was nobody there and nothing going away. The clouds parted briefly, making everything bright and indifferent. Every beam, a house, a warm bed, a hospital, a chorus line. All right, that's it.
Troy, that was fantastic. This is very different than what you've read here in the past, and it works. It works really well. So, it's I'm sure it comes as no surprise to you to hear me say that your work is usually very dark, right? And this is
Yeah.
still a dark piece, but this is dark in a much subtler way, right? Like this is, and the darkness like hangs right below this surface of like brightness and presumptive joy. And I love the intersection there where you can feel like everything about this house and about this situation should be joyful. Even discovering like the old growth chart right on the wall, like this is like a recording of someone's happy moments, and like the moment at the end with the like the view of the lawn and entering into the home and the smells, and like this should be a joyful moment. And I love the way the narrator's like internal darkness takes all of that in, like bending a shaft of light, right, and turns it all in this darker, more frightening, more like contaminated direction. It's a really subtle psychological piece. It's a really haunted piece. It's fantastic, Troy.
Yeah, thanks, man. I was having a heart, like, I always often think like, do we occupy houses or do they occupy us? Or
Yeah.
like,
Kind of the
Yeah,
inverse of a haunted house where it's not
right.
the house that's haunted, you're haunted by the house. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, man. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting me read.
Yeah, no, thank you for reading, man. And Eric, we'll let you open the night. We'll let you close the night.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, William. My dog entered the room earlier and kind of took me off my stride a little bit, but I'll just do a quick one to end. Super quick one. It's called Don Ruddy, and it goes like this. Don ran Birch 4 days a week down to Charleston from North Carolina, where he was based. He'd been doing it a month shy of 50 years. One time they substituted him Doug Fir, but it wasn't like that, pure white birch. Anyways, he replaced it at Port next time he was there. Don ran Eastern mainly. He got his 12 and longers at Econ, Studs and Chaleur. A big industrial guy once said, them Chaleurs, they're the best thing you've ever come by. That made him feel real good. People were always beating off about the prices, he said, no matter what. Even when they're still buying. You kind of listen with a deafie, he said. Makes no difference to me. Whole career ran smooth until the lines out east got real hard. It was hard to get a car due to the strikes. Bloody Canadian CN, he said. Needed a velocity account to get a pass. Made the rail mind. Made that. Had the volume though. That's it.
That was great, Eric. Everything I said about your first piece applies to this one. Once again, even though this was like a shorter, more concise piece, the character is there. The character is indelibly sketched in just a short exchange, just briefly, you know, and yet you get the essence of this guy. It's very good, Eric. And maybe I may start like having someone open and close the night. It's like a cool little bookend thing to do, I think. But thank you, Eric. And also, your dog is adorable.
He is. He's a little brat, but yeah.
What's the dog's name?
Arvid.
Arvid.
Arvid is like Arvid is like a really typical Swedish name. It's like I don't know. It's like Dave.
Not just spitting on the Swedes. Like, look at you fuckers! I've named my dog after your people.
He's actually an American hairless terrier. So he's got no fur. He's got no hair at all.
Oh, really?
Sounds like someone who'd love Sweden. A hairless American. Those are the kind of people who
know.
love Sweden.
Fucking cold here as well. It's not as cold as -20, but it's like -7 or something.
Oh, geez, it's
Jesus.
So, do your knuckles like become really dry? Because my knuckles are really
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
bright red. Is that quite typical? Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
my
I get that
Jergens,
too.
dog.
are like sandpaper, like 4 months out of
Yeah.
the year. It sucks.
Yeah.
Jergens or Cetaphil. That's the good stuff.
I'll have
Okay.
to look into that. Anyway, thank you so much, Eric. That was awesome. And I think we're going to
Thank-
call it there. As usual, I'm going to keep the Zoom meeting open for a while. People can hang out, but we're going to end the reading with that. This has been Misery Loves Company. We do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and share their work. Anyone is welcome to come and just hang out. We tweet out the Zoom link from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism, generally a few minutes before we get started. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Just fantastic readings tonight. A great batch of authors, just really, really good shit. And yeah, it's been a good one. Thanks, guys.